I was 19 years old when I watched a Marine drill instructor spit on Bruce Lee. I am 78 now. I have not told this story in 58 years. The doctors told me last November, lung cancer, stage 3. They gave me 9 months. I have 6 left, maybe 7. I do not have time to keep this secret anymore. My name is Thomas Halverson. They called me Tommy in 1968. I was a junior recruit at Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton, California. My company was Hotel Company, 1st Battalion, 1st Recruit Training Regiment. We were 412 recruits in formation on the parade ground at 05:47 hours on the morning of March 14, 1968. The sun was rising over the Santa Margarita Mountains. The temperature was 51 degrees Fahrenheit. The air smelled like diesel and wet asphalt. We had been at Pendleton for 6 weeks. We had 7 weeks left. Then a black sedan drove through the front gate at 05:52 hours. The sedan stopped 40 feet from our formation. A small Chinese man in a tan jacket stepped out of the back seat. He was 5'7". He weighed 138 pounds. He carried a small leather notebook. He held a pen. His name was Bruce Lee. What happened in the next 6 seconds at 06:17 hours that morning is why drill instructor Staff Sergeant Big Earl Whitaker resigned his commission 14 days later. It is why my platoon commander, Captain Mitchell, paid me $200 cash to never speak of it. It is why I still keep a folded photograph in my dress uniform pocket, the only photograph that survived from that morning. I will show it to you before this is over. But first, you need to understand the world we were standing in. March 1968. Lyndon Johnson was president. He had 18 days left before he would announce on national television he would not seek re-election. The Vietnam War was 6 years old. The Tet Offensive had ended 6 weeks earlier. American casualties in Vietnam had passed 19,000 dead. The draft was active. 412 of us at Hotel Company had not all volunteered. I was a volunteer. My older brother Daniel had been killed at Khe Sanh on January 21st, 1968. He was 22 years old. He was a corporal in the 26th Marines. He had been at Khe Sanh for 11 weeks. He died from a 152mm artillery shell. There was not enough of him left to send home in a casket. They sent his dog tags. They sent his class ring. They sent his wedding band. He had been married for 8 months. His wife Linda was 6 months pregnant when the shell hit. I enlisted on January 23rd, 1968, 2 days after the shell. I was 19. I had been at Yale for 4 months. I dropped out. My father did not speak to me for 14 weeks. He thought I was going to die too. He was almost right. I arrived at Camp Pendleton on January 30th, 1968. I was assigned to Hotel Company. My drill instructor was Staff Sergeant Earl Whitaker. Big Earl was 6'4". He weighed 320 pounds. He was 38 years old. He was from Beaumont, Texas. He had been a Marine for 19 years. He had served 2 tours in Korea. He had served 1 tour in Vietnam in 1966. He had killed 47 confirmed enemies. He wore the Silver Star, the Bronze Star with 2 oak leaf clusters, and the Purple Heart with 3 oak leaf clusters. He hated Asians. He did not hide it. He did not pretend. He had buried 11 Marines from his unit in Korea. He had buried 14 in Vietnam. He blamed Asians for all 25 of them. He blamed Asians for everything. In 6 weeks of training, Big Earl had broken 4 recruits. 2 of them quit. 1 of them attempted suicide. 1 of them was hospitalized with internal bleeding from what the medical report called training accident. The medical report was signed by the camp doctor, a man named Captain Robert McIntyre. Captain McIntyre is alive. He is 92. He lives in Oceanside. He has agreed to be filmed for the next chapter. Big Earl had a special name for any Asian he saw. He used it 47 times in our first 6 weeks. He used it on me once when I asked him about my brother's funeral. I will not repeat it on camera. On the morning of March 14, 1968, Big Earl Whitaker was in the worst mood I had ever seen him in. His cousin had been killed at Hue 4 days earlier. The cousin was named Earl Jr. He was 21. He was Big Earl's sister's son. He was a Marine private in the 5th Marines. He had been killed in house-to-house fighting in Hue City on March 10, 1968. Big Earl had received the telegram on March 12th. He had not slept in 47 hours. He had been drinking the night before. He was waiting for someone to look at him the wrong way. At 05:52 hours that morning, a Chinese man stepped out of a black sedan 40 feet from our formation. Big Earl saw him. I saw Big Earl's face change. I have not forgotten that face in 58 years. Bruce Lee was at Camp Pendleton by official invitation. The invitation had come from Lieutenant Colonel James Wilcox, commanding officer of the Recruit Training Regiment. Wilcox was 46 years old. He had served in Korea. He was a 4th-degree black belt in karate. He had read about Bruce Lee in a 1967 Black Belt magazine article. He had requested a hand-to-hand combat demonstration for the senior staff. He had sent the request through Bruce Lee's agent Marvin Klein in February 1968. The Marines were paying Bruce $400 for the morning. Bruce had agreed for one reason. His brother-in-law, Linda Emery's brother Robert, was a Marine. Robert had served in Vietnam in 1966. Robert had come home in 1967 with what we now call PTSD. Bruce had watched Robert wake up screaming for 11 months. Bruce wanted to see where Marines were made. He wanted to understand what was breaking the men he loved. Bruce was not scheduled to interact with the recruits. He was scheduled to demonstrate for the officers in the gymnasium at 0900 hours. He arrived at 05:52 because his driver got lost on the 5 freeway and overcorrected for time. The driver was a young Marine private named Jose Hernandez. Jose was 19. He was from East Los Angeles. He was Mexican-American. He had been driving for the base motor pool for 4 months. He told me later, I tracked him down in 1991, that he had taken a wrong exit and ended up at the parade ground entrance instead of the officers' gymnasium. Jose stopped the car. He looked at the map. He said, "Mr. Lee, I am very sorry. I took the wrong turn. The gymnasium is on the other side of the base." Bruce looked out the window. He saw 412 recruits standing in formation. He saw Big Earl Whitaker walking the line, 8 feet tall in his campaign cover. Bruce saw the sun rising behind the mountains. He saw the steam rising off the recruits' exhalations in the 51-degree air. He said, "Wait, Jose, I want to watch." Jose stopped the car. Bruce stepped out. He stepped out at exactly 05:52 hours. He stood next to the sedan. He held his notebook. He held his pen. He did not approach the formation. He did not introduce himself. He simply watched. He watched for 25 minutes. In those 25 minutes, Big Earl Whitaker walked our formation 4 times. Big Earl screamed at Recruit Sandoval for having a loose canteen strap. He screamed at Recruit Patterson for blinking during a left face. He punched Recruit Kowalski in the solar plexus for asking permission to wipe sweat off his eyebrow. Recruit Kowalski went down. He stayed down for 14 seconds. Big Earl did not see Bruce Lee for the first 23 of those 25 minutes. Then, at 06:15 hours, Big Earl turned to face the gate. He saw the small Chinese man standing next to the sedan. He stopped walking. I was in the 3rd row. I was 11 feet from where Bruce Lee was standing. I could see Big Earl's face from 40 feet away. I saw what changed in his eyes. Big Earl walked across the parade ground toward Bruce Lee. He walked slowly. He took 14 strides. Each stride was longer than the last. By stride 11, his hands were balled into fists. By stride 14, he was standing 2 feet from Bruce Lee. Bruce had not moved. He held his notebook in his left hand. The pen was in his right. Big Earl looked down at him. He was 8 inches taller. He was 182 pounds heavier. He had killed 47 men. He said one sentence. I will not repeat the racial slur. I will say it began with the word what and ended with the word doing. Between those words were 11 syllables. I have heard nowhere else in my life and want to hear nowhere else for the 6 months I have left. Bruce did not respond. Bruce smiled politely. He said, "Good morning, Staff Sergeant. I am observing." Big Earl spit on him. The spit hit Bruce's left cheek. It ran down to his jawline. Bruce did not wipe it off. He did not move. He smiled again. And then 412 of us watched 6 seconds of silence. For 6 seconds, nothing happened. Bruce Lee did not move. Big Earl Whitaker did not move. 412 recruits did not breathe. The sun crested the Santa Margarita Mountains and threw the first long shadow across the parade ground. The shadow fell across Bruce's face. The spit on his jawline glinted. I will tell you what I saw in those 6 seconds. In second 1, Bruce Lee's smile did not change. His eyes did not change. His grip on the notebook did not change. In second 2, Big Earl drew his right fist back. He cocked it at his shoulder. His right elbow went above his ear. He committed his weight forward. In second 3, Bruce Lee did one thing only. He shifted his right foot 4 inches to his right. That is all. He did not raise his hands. He did not lower his stance. He moved 4 inches. In second 4, Big Earl threw the punch. It was a 320-pound straight right thrown by a 19-year Marine with 47 confirmed kills. It was the punch he had thrown in Korea. It was the punch he had thrown in Vietnam. It was the punch that had broken 4 recruits in 6 weeks. In second 5, the punch passed through the space where Bruce Lee's head had been. Bruce was no longer in that space. He was 4 inches to the right. The punch traveled past his ear at full extension. Big Earl's elbow locked. His shoulder rotated past the breaking point. His weight carried him forward. In second 6, Bruce Lee placed 2 fingers on Big Earl's right wrist as it passed his ear. 2 fingers. The radial nerve. The same point Wing Chun masters call liek. Big Earl's right hand went numb. His arm extended past lockout. His weight carried him 6 inches farther forward than his balance allowed. He fell. A 6'4", 320-pound Marine Staff Sergeant with 47 confirmed kills fell forward onto the parade ground. He did not put his hands out to catch himself. His right arm was numb. His left arm was tucked at his side because he had been planning a left hook to follow the right. Big Earl Whitaker hit the asphalt face first. His campaign cover rolled 8 feet. His nose broke. His left front tooth broke. His upper lip split for 1.4 inches along the philtrum. He did not move for 14 seconds. 412 recruits stood in formation. Nobody breathed. I was 11 feet away. I saw Bruce Lee's face when Big Earl hit the ground. Bruce Lee did not smile. He did not look satisfied. He looked sad. He looked the way a man looks when he has been forced to do something he did not want to do. Bruce Lee bent down. He bent down to Big Earl Whitaker, lying face first on the parade ground. He placed his right hand on Big Earl's shoulder. He spoke 7 words. I heard them clearly from 11 feet away. So did 47 other recruits in the front 3 rows. The 7 words were, "Your nephew is not coming home, Staff Sergeant." Big Earl Whitaker began to cry on the parade ground. He cried for 47 seconds. 412 recruits watched a 320-pound Marine drill instructor cry on the asphalt of Camp Pendleton parade ground at 00617 hours on the morning of March 14, 1968. I need to stop here for a moment, because this is the part I did not understand for 11 years. How did Bruce Lee know about Earl Jr.? How did Bruce Lee know that Big Earl Whitaker had a nephew? How did Bruce Lee know the nephew had been killed at Hugh 4 days earlier? How did Bruce Lee know that the telegram had arrived 47 hours before that morning, and that Big Earl had not slept since reading it? I would not learn the answer to that question for 11 more years. In 1979, Marvin Klein, Bruce Lee's agent, gave a deposition in a civil lawsuit unrelated to this story. The deposition was sealed for 22 years. It was unsealed in 2001. I read it in 2003. In the deposition, Marvin Klein admitted he had received a phone call from Lieutenant Colonel James Wilcox on March 12, 1968, 2 days before the Pendleton visit. Wilcox had asked Klein to pass a message to Bruce Lee. The message contained 11 lines of personnel information about the senior drill instructor staff at Hotel Company, 1st Battalion. The information included Big Earl Whitaker's service record, his confirmed kills, his medal citations, and his next-of-kin notifications from the previous 6 weeks. Wilcox had included Earl Jr.'s death notice from March 10. Wilcox had circled it. Wilcox had written one sentence in the margin. "Big Earl will break this week. The recruits will pay. Help us if you can." Bruce Lee read the file on March 13. He flew to Pendleton on March 14. He told Jose Hernandez to get lost on the 5 freeway. He did not get lost by accident. Bruce Lee asked Jose to drive past the parade ground at 0552 hours because he wanted to be there when Big Earl walked the formation. Bruce Lee was not at Camp Pendleton to teach the senior officers hand-to-hand combat at 0900 hours. Bruce Lee was at Camp Pendleton at 0617 hours to keep a 320-pound drill instructor from breaking a 412-man company before the cousin's funeral. He was not at the wrong place. He was at the right place, 2 hours and 43 minutes early. Big Earl Whitaker stayed face down on the parade ground for 47 seconds. Bruce Lee knelt next to him for all 47 seconds. Bruce did not say another word. Then, Big Earl pushed himself up onto his hands and knees. Blood from his nose pooled on the asphalt in a circle the size of a dinner plate. His campaign cover lay 8 feet away. Bruce reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a folded white handkerchief. He handed it to Big Earl. Big Earl took it. He pressed it to his nose. He sat back on his heels. He looked up at Bruce. He said in a voice I could barely hear from 11 feet away, "How did you know about Earl Jr.?" Bruce said, "Lieutenant Colonel Wilcox made a phone call. He cares about you, Staff Sergeant. He asked me to come." Big Earl looked at the handkerchief in his hand. He saw it had been embroidered with 3 Chinese characters in red thread. He could not read them. He said, "What does this mean?" Bruce said, "It is my father's name. He died last year. I carry his handkerchief because I am still trying to learn from him. I think you may be still trying to learn from your nephew. Keep it. It is yours now." Big Earl Whitaker held the handkerchief in his right hand. He cried again, this time for 14 seconds. Then he stood up. He turned to face our formation. He said in a voice that did not shake, "Recruits, hotel company, stand at ease." We stood at ease. He said, "I have been a poor instructor for 6 weeks. Tomorrow I will be a better one. I am sorry for what I called this man. I am sorry for what I have called many of you. I am—" He stopped. He could not finish the sentence. "Dismissed for breakfast. 0700 hours, full kit, second formation." He saluted Bruce Lee. A 19-year Marine Staff Sergeant saluted a 138-pound Chinese movie star on the parade ground of Camp Pendleton at 0619 hours on March 14, 1968. Bruce returned the salute. I have not seen 412 grown men cry quietly in formation before or since. We were dismissed at 0619. The black sedan drove away at 0631. Bruce Lee did the senior staff demonstration at 0900 as scheduled. He flew back to Los Angeles at 1647. He never returned to Camp Pendleton. That afternoon, Captain Mitchell, my platoon commander, pulled me out of formation. He took me to his office. He sat across from me. He put a brown envelope on the desk. He said, "Halverson, there are $200 in this envelope. There is also a non-disclosure agreement. The Corps does not want this story told. The Corps does not want a Marine drill instructor crying in front of 412 recruits to be the official record of what happened this morning. You will sign the agreement. You will keep the money. You will speak of this to no one for 50 years. I was 19 years old. My brother had been dead for 7 weeks. My father had not spoken to me for 14 weeks. I needed the money and the silence both. I signed. The 50 years expired in March of 2018. I waited 6 more years. Then the cancer came. I have 6 months left, maybe 7. I am telling the story now. Big Earl Whitaker resigned his commission on March 28, 1968, 14 days after the parade ground morning. He went home to Beaumont, Texas. He attended his nephew Earl Jr.'s funeral on April 2, 1968. He wore his dress blues. He carried Bruce Lee's handkerchief in his left breast pocket. He stood next to the casket. He spoke for 11 minutes. He did not cry. After the funeral, he did not return to the Marines. He worked at his brother-in-law's hardware store in Beaumont for 9 years. In 1977, at age 47, he founded a free karate school for at-risk teenagers in Port Arthur, Texas. He taught the school for 31 years. He taught 1,247 students. He never charged $1. He never accepted a donation larger than $100. He never struck a student in 31 years of teaching. He kept Bruce Lee's handkerchief in a frame on the wall of the dojo, the 3 red Chinese characters facing the front door. Big Earl Whitaker died on November 14, 2008. He was 78 years old. He died of heart failure in his sleep. He was buried in Port Arthur. His casket was carried by 6 of his former students. They were all men who had been arrested as teenagers and had become teachers, soldiers, fathers. The handkerchief is still in the dojo. The dojo is still open. It is run by Big Earl's daughter, Reba Whitaker. She is 56. She lives in Port Arthur. She has agreed to be filmed for the next chapter. She is the reason I am alive to tell this story. I will explain in a moment. Bruce Lee returned to Los Angeles on the afternoon of March 14, 1968. He went home to Linda. He did not tell her about the parade ground morning. He went to his office. He wrote in his black leather notebook for 47 minutes. The entry is on page 41, dated 3/14/68. The notebook is in the Bruce Lee Foundation archive in Seattle. The entry reads, "Today I watched a man break in front of 412 boys. I made him fall before he could hurt them. He thanked me by saluting. I do not want to be saluted. I want to be understood. The drill instructor was not a cruel man. He was a man holding 25 funerals. I gave him a handkerchief. He gave me back the lesson my father tried to teach me before he died, that the strongest medicine is patience, and the most violent act is mercy. The boys saw it. They will be different soldiers because of it. Some of them will come home because of it. That is enough." 84 words. Bruce Lee died 5 years and 4 months later, on July 20th, 1973. He was 32 years old. He never spoke of Camp Pendleton to anyone. Linda Lee Cadwell did not learn about the morning until 1991, when I wrote her a letter explaining what had happened. Linda was 46. She wrote back. Her letter is dated November 4, 1991. I have it in my safe deposit box. I have made a copy for this video. The camera will show it now. She wrote, "Mr. Halverson, thank you for the story. Bruce told me on the night of March 14, 1968, that he had visited a Marine base. He told me he had felt useful for the first time in a long time. He did not tell me why. I think he was protecting Staff Sergeant Whitaker. I think he was protecting the recruits. I think he was protecting himself from having to remember it. Bruce understood war in a way most American men did not. His brother-in-law had served. His father had survived the Japanese occupation of Hong Kong. Bruce believed that war made boys cruel and made cruel men weep. He told me once, 'The cure for cruelty is not gentleness. The cure for cruelty is being seen.' I think he saw your drill instructor. I think your drill instructor was waiting his whole life to be seen. I am glad he was. Please tell his family I am thinking of them." I waited 17 years to tell Reba Whitaker about Linda's letter. I told her in 2008, 2 weeks after Big Earl's funeral. I drove to Port Arthur. I sat in her kitchen. I read her the letter. She held the handkerchief in her hands while I read. She did not cry. She said, "My daddy was not a cruel man. He was a man holding 25 funerals. Mr. Lee saw him. I am glad somebody saw him before the end." Reba Whitaker is the reason I am alive to tell this story. I need to explain. In November 2024, I had been diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer for 1 month. I was 78. I lived alone in a 1-bedroom apartment in Oceanside, California. My wife Carol had died of breast cancer in 2019. We had been married for 47 years. We had no children. Carol had been my only family for almost 5 decades. When the cancer came, I was alone. I was scheduled for chemotherapy at Camp Pendleton Naval Hospital. The hospital had agreed to treat me as a Vietnam-era veteran benefit case. My oncologist was a Navy doctor named Captain Sarah Whitaker. Captain Whitaker was 41 years old. She was tall. She had a Texas accent. She was kind to me on my first appointment. She read my file. She paused. She looked up. She said, "Mr. Halverson, may I ask, were you at Camp Pendleton in March of 1968? Hotel company?" I said yes. She said, "My grandfather was Earl Whitaker. He was your drill instructor." I started to cry in her office. I am 78. I have not cried in 19 years, not since Carol's diagnosis. I cried in a Navy doctor's office in November 2024 because the granddaughter of the man who spit on Bruce Lee was about to give me chemotherapy. She was Reba's daughter. Reba had told her the story when she was 14 years old. Reba had given her Big Earl's handkerchief to bring with her to medical school. She had kept it in her white coat pocket for 14 years. Captain Sarah Whitaker pulled the handkerchief out of her pocket on my first appointment. She showed it to me. The 3 red Chinese characters were faded. The white linen was yellowed, but the handkerchief was real. The handkerchief Bruce Lee had given Big Earl Whitaker on the parade ground at 0619 hours on March 14, 1968. Captain Whitaker said, "Mr. Halverson, I am going to do my best to keep you alive long enough to tell my grandfather's story." He told my mother. My mother told me, "I have been waiting my whole life to meet someone who was there. She has kept me alive for 6 months. I have 6 more months. She has agreed to be filmed for the next chapter. She will tell you what her grandfather told her mother on the night before he died, November 13, 2008. He spoke for 47 minutes. He held the handkerchief in his hand. He named all 25 of the men he had buried in Korea and Vietnam. He named his nephew Earl Jr. He named the 4 recruits he had broken at Hotel Company in 1968. He apologized to all of them by name. He told Reba that he had spent every day of the last 40 years trying to be the man Bruce Lee had seen on the parade ground. He told her he was not sure he had become that man. He hoped he had gotten close. Reba told Sarah. Sarah told me. Now I am telling you. The handkerchief is in this room. Sarah has loaned it to me for this video. It is sitting on the table, 4 feet from this chair. The camera is on it now. The 3 red Chinese characters are faded but legible. The characters spell Li Hoi Chuen, Bruce Lee's father's name. Bruce Lee carried his father's handkerchief to a Marine parade ground in 1968 because he was still trying to learn from a man who was not there to teach him anymore. He gave it to a Marine drill instructor who was about to break in front of 412 boys because the drill instructor was trying to learn from a nephew who was not coming home. The handkerchief has been carried by 3 people in 58 years: a Chinese movie star, a Texas Marine, a Navy oncologist. It is sitting on this table because 2 of those 3 people are gone, and the 3rd one is keeping the 4th person alive long enough to finish the sentence. That is the lesson. The handkerchief is the message. The message is, somebody was here. Somebody saw you. Somebody passed it on. Bruce knew first. I have thought about that morning every day for 58 years. I used to think the story was about a fight. Then I thought the story was about a salute. Last year I realized the story was about a handkerchief, a square of white linen with 3 red Chinese characters. A 138-pound man pulled it out of his jacket pocket on a March morning in 1968. He gave it to a 320-pound man who was bleeding on the asphalt. The 320-pound man kept it in his dress blues for 4 weeks, then in a frame on his dojo wall for 31 years. His daughter inherited it in 2008. His granddaughter took it to medical school in 2010. She has carried it in her white coat pocket for 14 years. She is using it now to keep me alive long enough to tell you what happened. That is what 7 words can do when they come with the right object. Your nephew is not coming home, Staff Sergeant. 7 words. 1 handkerchief. 3 generations. 58 years. 1,247 at-risk teenagers in Port Arthur, Texas. 412 recruits at Hotel Company who became different soldiers in Vietnam. 1 Navy doctor in Oceanside who is keeping a 78-year-old man alive long enough to break a 50-year promise. I am 78. I have 6 months left, maybe 7. I am unfolding the photograph now, the only photograph that survived. A platoon photographer named Lance Corporal Daniel Yo took it from 80 feet away with a telephoto lens. He developed 14 prints that afternoon. The Corps confiscated 13 of them. Yo smuggled the 14th one home in his sock. He gave it to me at our 25th reunion in 1993. Yo died of leukemia in 1997. I have carried this photograph in my dress uniform pocket for 31 years. You can see Bruce Lee bending over Big Earl Whitaker. His right hand is on Big Earl's shoulder. The handkerchief is in his left hand. Big Earl is on his hands and knees. Blood is on the asphalt. The sun is rising behind them. 412 recruits are visible in the background, frozen at attention. I am setting the photograph on the table next to the handkerchief. The camera is tightening on both objects. This is the last thing I have to say. Bruce knew first. He flew to a Marine base on March 14, 1968, with his father's handkerchief in his pocket because he understood that war makes boys cruel and makes cruel men weep. He saved a drill instructor by spending a moment seeing him. He saved 412 recruits by making one man fall in front of them. He saved 1,247 at-risk teenagers in a Port Arthur dojo by giving Big Earl Whitaker the rest of his life to spend differently. He saved me by giving Big Earl a granddaughter who would become a Navy doctor in 2014, who would pull a folded handkerchief out of her white coat pocket on November 4, 2024, and tell a stage 3 lung cancer patient, "I am going to keep you alive long enough." Bruce knew first. He knew before any of us. He knew because he had been paying attention to the world. He had been reading personnel files. He had been talking to lieutenant colonels at midnight. He had been planning a 6-second silence for 47 hours while the rest of us were planning breakfast. That is the lesson I carry now. The miracle is not the fall. The miracle is the handkerchief. Pay attention to the world. Carry your father's handkerchief. Give it away when somebody needs it. Bruce knew first. Captain Sarah Whitaker, Oceanside, coming next month. She has the handkerchief. She has the 47-minute conversation her grandfather had with her mother on the night before he died. She has the names of the 25 men Big Earl carried for 40 years. She has the apology her grandfather wanted to make to Bruce Lee, but never could. She is going to make it now. On camera. 58 years late. With the handkerchief in her hand. I'm closing my eyes now. I'm thinking about my brother Daniel. He has been dead for 58 years. I have not stopped missing him. But Bruce Lee gave me 412 brothers on the parade ground that morning. He gave me a drill instructor who taught 1,247 sons in Port Arthur. He gave me a Navy doctor who is keeping me alive long enough to tell you all of this. That is enough. That is more than enough. Bruce knew first.